Please be seated. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. As I said, to 8 o'clock, I had never been in this church before, but it's good. One of the things one can do in retirement is to go and see different churches and maybe help serve them as well. This morning's lessons are about hope and are about waiting and about discernment. The parable that Jesus talks about and Paul's letter to the Romans seems really pretty black and white. You know, there's the good and there's the bad, and it's like they're two completely different things. And yet the parable talks about waiting and watching to see what really emerges from the field. So we have the good seeds and the nuts and the bad seeds. The one are things that are sown by the Son of Man and the other by the devil. But my experience is that we're a whole lot more gray than we are black and white. And the same thing is true, it seems to me, even if you're a gardener or a farmer, or have paid attention to any of the creation, care kinds of things that have come about climate change and biodiversity, is that what one person thinks is a weed is in fact really beneficial. So, you know, milkweed, we've discovered, may be something that farmers would not be so keen to have, but if we want monarch butterflies, we better have some. Or another one that I know, if you're not a farmer, but you have a lawn, oftentimes we think of dandelions as being terrible, and yet dandelion greens make really good salad, and there is dandelion wine. And little kids love those puffballs, right? So we may think that it's terrible in one way, and in another way we discover that it has something that's really beneficial as well. So I was just yesterday helping to celebrate my granddaughter's second birthday, and people are the same way as plants. So she's 2. And let me tell you, she knows how to say, "Walk away, Mommy." No clue, which is what she calls me. No, somebody else sit down here. In other words, she is a definitive 2-year-old with a will of her own. And we might say that that's really challenging, and it is really challenging to parents and grandparents, and we all, I see lots of nods, a lot of you understand that we really kind of are a little taken aback by that behavior, but do we really want to discourage it? And I think the answer is no, not really. We need to figure out how to work around it, because there are times when, you know, the 2-year-olds just can't stand, you know, when she doesn't want to go to bed or take a nap or get clothes on. But at the same time, we want her to grow into be an adult who can stand up for herself, can set appropriate boundaries, and be strong enough to be a good leader or a good follower, but have the capacity to think for herself. So while it's challenging behavior, just like those dandelions or that milkweed may be challenging at some times or in some places, it's not something that we necessarily need to get rid of entirely. So the description of the weeds and the good grain, or the wheat, in the parable might be in the same person, or might be about things that at one point look like we want to get rid of them, but some other time we might discover we wish we hadn't gotten rid of, or we don't want to get rid of. And some of that discernment is up to us at some point, but some of it is something that will be revealed to us in time, so we have to wait. But in that waiting, and in your waiting time for what comes next, that's not a passive waiting. It's a paying attention to, and a discerning, and an encouraging, and paying attention to the good things, and waiting to see what emerges for the other. It's a hard thing to do, to wait and discern and hope. But the hope that we are looking for is hope for the common good. Hope for the benefit of what might end up being in the future. And I would say that there are systemic things within this congregation that need to be paid attention to. If I know anything about transition, and I've been in my fair share of churches that are going through transition in the last 4 or 5 years, and there are things that we know that we need to pay attention to in the broader community and the world around us. Some of that, whether it's good or bad, we need to discern. And some of it we'll need to wait for. And some of it we need to work toward. So one of the descriptions of hope that I read in the last couple of weeks is that hope is something that we can't see, the way Paul says, but is something that we work toward, expecting or hoping that it will come to pass. Something that will draw us into the future, away from what is the now and into the future, looking, I believe, that what we look for is that promise of God, that the kingdom, the reign of God, where there's justice and where there is peace, is something that we can hope for and work toward. It's not a passive waiting, it's an active waiting. It's something that says, I may not be able to see what will happen. I may not know exactly what's good or bad, but I can do something today that will help. I can plant a tree. If I plant a little sapling, I'm not going to see it full grown. We have to cut down a dead one. It's really, really big. And that's really, really sad, but the center is dead and it's dangerous, so we have to cut it down. And we'll replace it with something that we and my husband and I in our lifetime will not see flourish to its full capacity. But we can plant. We can encourage good things. We can wait and discern for what we're hoping for. And then counting on God's promise that in the end, what God purposes will be fulfilled. It's not a passive. It's not a, oh, I can sit back and do nothing because I don't have to go pull the weeds out. No, there's some things that we can do. There are things that we can do every day. We can help each other out. We can pay attention to some of the things that we do control. characteristics that we may want to label bad are in fact good. And some of the things that we think are great may in fact not be so great. Time will tell. And in the end, all the labor, all the groaning, all of the struggle will be fulfilled and will be worthwhile. That's God's promise. The promise of love and redemption and new life. Amen. Amen.